see how we have everything set up from the order in which I apply it, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. Most likely I recommended this brush for you right here. This is called the 3D brush. It offers medium coverage and is the best brush for beginners. Once you get the hang of this makeup, you can definitely order more brushes to help you get an even more flawless routine. We're gonna start off with this first. My skin is already prepped with my favorite SPF moisturizer. Take the fluffy side of the brush. This is going to be the best side to apply your contour and your lip and cheek shade. It also is amazing for blending, which I'll show you that in a second. Stamp into our contour shade. What you'll notice is that the contour shade is a little bit stiffer than the other shades. That is on purpose. That is to make sure that you don't pick up too much contour, especially if I color matched you to the shade indigo, because as you can see, it looks super dark and scary, but I promise you when it blends out, it is actually super natural and just enhances your natural contour. To find our contour by pressing our finger right at our cheekbone, place this a little bit higher than our cheekbone and not go past the eye. Holding the brush horizontally and stamping back and forth, flip the brush vertically, stamp that until it's nice and blended. Stamping on your contour will create the most flawless finish and give you a less patchy finish. If you have a larger forehead, you can place some in the center of the forehead. I also like to place some just down the sides of my temples, right above the brow arch. Pinch our brush, stamp into the contour again. We're not placing this on the side of our nose, we're placing it on the top of our nose, and this will give a natural contour. The reason I start off with contour first is because this is the step that is the most intimidating and the scariest looking, but once you blend everything out, it is going to look beautiful, so trust the process. Place a little tiny bit on the bottom of my nose, and if you're trying to get rid of any kind of double chin action, place a little bit right here where it's looking a little bit lighter, blend that down. Basically, you want to place the contour anywhere where you see a lighter spot. It is gonna go underneath our jawline and not on top of the actual jawline. And look at the difference between this side here versus that side there. For the double chin in the center, just place that right there underneath the chin, and this will give you a very natural look that won't look like you were rolling around in mud. Moving on to our next shade, this is our main highlight shade. I also call this your foundation shade or your coverage shade. Unless if you have super dark circles, that's very distraction, where you might have been recommended a camouflage or corrector shade, your main highlight shade is going to be dark enough to cover anything that you might find distracting, including under eye circles. Grab a little bit on the side of the brush, stamping in one time because this is highly pigmented. Always dab whenever I want more coverage and swipe if I want lighter coverage. And look at the difference between the two under eyes. Once I cover up all the things that I want covered, like any redness, then I'll go ahead and apply this along my jawline. And if your contour went down too low, this is a great way for you to fix it. Since I don't really have much to cover here, I'm just gonna swipe this onto my jawline. Pay attention to your brush. If you notice that you move on to another area and you're not really seeing any color, it may be a sign for you to pick up a little tiny bit more. Remember, a little bit of this goes a very long way. Try not to pick up too much. Always do very light pressures. When you first get started with this makeup, it may take you a while to figure out the right amount to use. A sign that you're using too much is if the makeup feels sticky on the face. That means that you've applied way too much. Moving along to our brightening highlight shade. This is also known as a brightening concealer shade. As we get older, we should be avoiding this directly underneath the inner corner of the eye, and mostly focusing this on the outer corner of the eye to give a lifted yet brightened effect. If you have anything like fine lines, wrinkles, or darkness right in this inner corner of the eye and put something bright there, it's gonna bring that forward and enhance it a lot more. The more that we place underneath the eyes, the more likely the makeup is to settle. Place this down the center of my nose as well. We don't need very much of this makeup. Place a little bit down the center of my forehead just to brighten that area up. And if you are in between seasons and notice that your neck and your jawline is a lot lighter, feel free to place a little tiny bit of that shade just underneath the contour. This will blend everything together. If you want a more flawless finish, blend out your makeup, or you can choose to apply your blush and then blend everything out. Place my blush right in between my contour and my brightening highlight shade. Start at the temples and dab your way forward. Note that the blush is very, very pigmented. Don't need very much of this shade. Use the pointed side of the brush to start blending in the lightest colors first. I'm gonna use the pointed side of my brush to start blending in my highlight shades or my lighter colors first. Dab to blend using the side of the brush. Swipe my highlight shade into my contour shade. Notice how that really super scary dark contour starts to soften up and look a lot more natural. If for any reason it still looks a little bit too dark, take a little bit of your highlight shade and just place that right on top, and that will soften up the appearance of your contour and make it look a little bit more natural. Dab along the jawline, that same brush, dab all the way around to blend. Flip our brush over, dab to blend in the contour and the blush in a circular motion. And if for any reason you have any harsh lines, just lightly swipe up and that will take care of any harsh lines that you might have. Look at the difference between this side here that's fully blended versus this side here that's not completely blended yet. Blend in my nose contour. I'm gonna start from the outer corner and swipe inwards towards the center of my nose. And I'm using very light pressure. Flip over to the pointy side of the brush. Just blend in any harsh lines. Dabbing will always make sure that your makeup is staying in place and not moving around all over the place. Go over any areas that might be looking a little bit patchy. Because of the beauty of cream makeup not setting by itself, you can go in and add any extra blush that you might want to add, or add a little bit more of your brightening highlight or deepen up your contour. Since cream makeup is so versatile, you can use this lip and cheek shade as a natural lip color by dabbing that on with your finger. You can use the contour shade to line your lips. I'll either use my finger or the pointy side of the brush to get a little bit more precise. Always remember that cream makeup blends in so easily and is so forgiving, which is why it's very beginner friendly. I like to sometimes use that contour shade just as a natural little eyeshadow and placing that in the outer corner of the eye, and look at how that gave me an instant eye lift. Use a little tiny bit of my brightening highlight as a natural eyeshadow to even out my eyes and create a brightening effect. Or I could use my main highlight for something a little bit more natural. And at this point, we're going to set our makeup.